Hi, I'm Brian, and welcome to my 10 favorite pickups from 2024. Now, these are not my 10 favorite albums that I picked up in 2024 because I've shown a lot of those on the channel already. No, these are ones where I may have bought them blind or had extremely low expectations, no expectations, or anxiety inducing expectations. You know, the type of thing. But one of the great things about last year was I've sort of reconnected a lot with record shops and made a lot of new friends on the vinyl community as well. And there's been nothing better than going through record shops and trawling, looking for a bargain. Like the other day, I was in Super Trash. Shout out to Matt there. And there was nothing new. And he was even saying to me, it's been slow after Christmas and he's hoping to get some new records in the next 2 weeks or so. So I thought I'll have a flick through. And there I am going through the crates. And right down the back, behind one of the crates, if this had slipped down, and it was Level 42's double live album from 1985, A Physical Presence. $10 for a double album. And so I thought I will give this a shot. And there was nothing better than when I took it home, cranked it up after giving it a clean, and hearing that good funk come out. It was amazing, my God. And I'm thinking, I got this for $10. Now, anybody from Sydney should have my vintage is going to remember that sticker there, and that's an Ashwood sticker, and up the top it says 2 records for $6. And now how's that for inflation? 2 records for $6, and this has gone up to 2 records to $10. And people want to charge me $70 for a copy of The Soft Parade by The Doors? No way. No, no, no net. Not tonight, Josephine. I'm not going for it. Anyway, so that's the beauty of it. You know, I took that album home, played it, and enjoyed it so much. And I'm thinking, I got myself a bargain. And I probably felt better listening to that. My mood was higher, more elevated than if I had taken home a grail where I would have been listening for every pop and crackle. Anyway, so that's the deal with that. So, what were my top 10 vinyl pickups, my low anxiety expectations of the year? Let's take a deep dive and find out. Yeah. So let's start off in 1968 with Steppenwolf II. Funnily enough, it's their second album, but look at that foil cover. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And even the back cover's really cool, isn't it? Like, I love it all the way through. It's fantastic. But you know what? It wasn't only the foil cover that attracted me to this record, because at Vintage Records, it was $5. Way, $5. You know, last night I was watching a video by the great David Atkinson in which he was having a rant about why record shops don't have a £5 section. Well, I was lucky to get this from Vintage Records. Shout out to Phil in Sydney. And he does have a $5 section. And in that $5 section, you'll have basically albums where he's got a million of them, or they're VG. But he also has a system where you get a bit of a discount. If you buy 5 of them, you get 5 for 20. So that's really cool. So yes, David, I agree totally. And I'll leave a link to your video below in the comments. Every record shop should have the £5 section or the $5 section to make sure the stock is turning over. Couldn't agree more. Now, the only thing I really knew about this album was it had Magic Carpet Ride on it, which is just such a classic psychedelic song. I mean, you've got that amazing Hammond organ, the jointiness, the bounciness of it, the funk of the song, plus the wonderful rhythm section and that psychedelic feedback guitar section, which I thought went for about 15, 20 seconds, but the other night I was listening to it and it felt like it went for about half an hour. It was absolutely beautiful. What else have we got here? We've got Faster Than the Speed of Life, which is the obligatory sort of Born to Be Run sort of song. Then the next track's really interesting because it's called Tighten Up Your Wig. And this was stolen from Junior Wells from Messing with the Kid. And before I sort of made up my mind whether to hate Steppenwolf eternally, the last verse came up, and if I can read the lyrics to you, they acknowledge that they stole it from Junior Wells. And they say, before we go, I'd like to mention Junior Wells. We stole this thing from him and he from someone else. Oh yeah, he plays the blues like few before. May he play forevermore. And I'm thinking, so what's happening here? So they've actually gone up to Junior Wells and said, hey, buddy, thanks for the song. We're going to steal it now and we're going to make money out of it. Now, you won't get any money from that. But don't worry about that because it's now our song and it's called Tighten Up Your Wig. Is that okay with you? Thanks, buddy. Thanks very much. Um, I don't know why they weren't sued, but I think it's called the Zeppelin defense. But anyway, I just looked on, and it's credited to John Kay on the original album. None of Your Doing is another great funk, psyche pop song. It's full of prettiness, and there's even some Asian instrumentation on there in the middle break. But the chorus does sound a little bit like one they would rip off for their own song for Ladies Only, or the title track of that album. Then there's a bluesy, psyche suite on the second side, which is definitely worth checking out, and that's After Magic Carpet Ride. And the song I think that kicks it off, or one of the songs that is really involved in that, is Hodgepodge Strained Through a Leslie, which is fairly aimless, but it's a groovy jam, and then it segues into Resurrection. So the second side definitely has its rewards, and that's Steppenwolf, the second from 1968. Let's move on to 1976. It's Billy Cobham, Life and Times, and there's Billy when I think he was 6 years old. And it was one of those days I was in a place called, and they hadn't turned over their stock, and I did not know what I was going to do, but I wanted to buy something. And, I knew the name Billy Cobham. I knew that he was one of the greatest jazz drummers of all time, one of the great fusion drummers. And fusion's always scared me a little bit, I'd have to be honest. But I picked up this anyway. I think it was for a tenner. And I got it home, and it's got John Scofield on guitar, DeWilly Gongo on keyboards, and Doug Roush on bass. And I put it on. And on my first listen, I was like, oh my God, turn it off. My God, why do they have to play so much? Does that bass solo have to go for so long? Please. I was like, I was curled up in a fetal position. And then second listen through, big difference. I started to think to myself that the magic of this album was not how much they were playing, but how little. And I started to listen to each of the instruments separately, and I wondered what they contributed to the song. And we've got the driving force of Billy Cobham, engineering this jazz fusion so beautifully. But then everybody else totally understands what they're doing, and they contribute to the whole. And I really started to enjoy it. And a great example of that is on the title track, Life and Times. Then we've got the sheer beauty of Siesta Wake Up, That's What You Said, which is a perfect interlude from all that hard-edged fusion. Then we get the sinewy funk of East Bay. And on the second side, Song for a Friend, parts 1 and 2, is absolutely gorgeous. And John Scofield really shows off here. It's spacey and it's soaring. Now, these are musicians who just get the mood and understand it and play for it. And another artist that I really like and I love, let's go forward to 1978 now. And this is an artist who I would pretty much buy anything they put out. And this is Joe Tex. And this is Rub Down. Now, I love everything the man sings, but sometimes he's a little bit creepy. I mean, take the cover. I think this is supposed to be Hot Tub and Excitement, but it looks to me like Hot Tub Dracula. Anybody in the mood for that? Anybody at all? Anybody want a little vampire popping out of your suds when you're taking a hot tub? I don't know that you do. Anyway, so Joe can be a bit creepy at times, and he lives in this wild and weird dualism. But it opens up with Rub Down, and this starts with sort of a love boat schmaltz. But it's the humor on this track which leads to funkier grooves. He doesn't want to go to the disco with his girlfriend because he's too old, and the disco floor is a battlefield and people are pushing him around, and you've got to be James Brown these days. And he suggests to his girlfriend that they leave the disco because he's getting bumped and bruised. And then he says, I need a rub down, baby, I need a rub down. Don't you want to rub me down? Now, interestingly enough, isn't that a great thing? That you got this old man who's being battered and bruised in the disco, and his young fine thing, the number one thing that's going to be on her mind is to give him a rub down, baby. Don't you want to rub me down? Anyway, then we have You Can Be My Star, which is a really cool monologue to open. And here's that dualism I was talking about, because this song and this monologue is all about warning women about the nefarious deeds that men are going to get up to, and not to believe any of their pickup lines. There you go. And who doesn't need a song with You Might Be Digging the Garden, but somebody's picking your plums? But somebody's picking your plums. And then we go on to another song, which is Be Kind to Old People, which precedes Pulp's Help the Aged by 20 years. But the real trump card on here, and I suppose it's why I sort of got it, is the song I Gotcha. Now, I really love the funk of this song, but the lyrics are very much creepy uncle. Not too good at all. But in this song, he turns it around and shifts it into a big power soul ballad. And the emphasis is more on like, you didn't go out with me before, but now that I have you, I'm going to treat you so beautifully and you're going to understand that you should have been with me in the past. But it's still slightly creepy. Or is it? Do we need a poll on this one? Let's move on. And we're going to 1980. And this is Madness. Absolutely. And apparently, Absolutely was named after the expression that their tour manager used all the time. Absolutely. And it could be my catchphrase because I know I use it absolutely all the time as well. I use absolutely all the time as well. I can't get away from it. Anyway, this is their second album. And I bought this album primarily for Baggy Trousers. It's been one of my favorite songs for many, many, many years. I used to love dancing to it. Also love the rhythm section on the Close Escape. And is that a sitar in there as well? The panning guitars on the beat, Pete. What a wonderful song that is. As sweet as mustard. Sweet as sweet can be, I suppose. And In the Rain is just a great pop song written by people who could write great pop songs. Absolutely fantastic. I just said absolutely again, didn't I? Okay, next up, a guy I had heard of before but never heard before, and it's 1981, Bill Nelson with Quit Dreaming and Get Out on the Beam, or Get on the Beam. And I have heard how revered he is in post-punk and new wave circles as a guitarist, which is no mean feat. And that he was in Bebop Deluxe and Red Noise, but I'd never heard those bands. But what I am hearing here is a bit of Brian Eno, a bit of John Fox, a bit of Devo. And the album was recorded in 1979, but Harvest rejected it. And it wasn't until he signed with Mercury that the album came out. And this was an album I picked up for $10. And so it really was a blind buy in many ways. But I got it home, cleaned it up, and all of a sudden, I'm pretty happy. It opens with Banal. And isn't that a wonderfully sort of bored and a word filled with so much ennui for a post-punk new wave album? And it turns out to be a driving statement of intent. Plus, it's got a killer guitar solo. And this is amazing. I can't think of too many other guitarists who were doing full-on guitar solo at the time when synthesizers were planning their total oral domination, or TAD for short. Great song. And then we've got Vertical Games, which begins with the immortal line, I love to make love when the music goes strange. And immediately I'm thinking, vertical games, but you want to make love. Shouldn't that be horizontal? Or are you just on some other planet there? Or are you in too much of a hurry? You don't have time to lie down? What's going on? Got no idea there. Anyway, the music does go strange in it, and Bill's out there on the prowl. Cool song. Then we've got shifting up to the final track. It's the title track. But you know what? It shows us that there were artists other than Gary Newman who were jumping into the icy pool of electronic refrigeration, because these are all freezing synths and programmed percussion. And he has my interest. And, you know, that's the thing about blind buys. They're like a box of chocolates. You're never sure what you... No, you are sure what you're going to get. You buy a box of chocolates and you look inside the lid or on the bottom of the box and it tells you what they are. Life isn't like a box of chocolates. You know what you're going to get. Or maybe it was different back in the 1950s. Anyway, if you were to ask me what my most hated movie of all time was and whether it was Forrest Gump, I'd have to take the Fifth Amendment on the grounds that it may just incriminate me. Let's move on. Life is like a box of chocolates. And I'm going to go all mini on us now, because this is another one that I absolutely love. Picked it up fairly blind. And it's Lene Lovich's New Toy. And this is a mini album. And this is from 1981, which was 2 years after she released Lucky Number, which is such a great song with that quirky vocal. And this is an album, it's a mini album, which is put out in many versions, but this one was put out with all new songs. And what really piqued my interest about New Toy was that I was doing a little bit of trawling on YouTube, and I saw it being performed in concert with Thomas Dolby. You know, he from the career-defining, career-ending "She Blinded Me with Science" song. And I thought it was really cool that he had this band together, and then Lene Lovich was out on stage singing. So I picked it up. And, you know, New Toy is a classic pop song, and it's written by Thomas Dolby. It has a propulsive groove, fantastically and typically quirky lyric from Lena, great chanting chorus. I want a new toy. Hi. Then there's this piano-driven middle section, which is just reminiscent of Thomas Dolby's serious work, as opposed to that shocker that he did with "She Blinded Me with Science." Not that I've got anything negative to say about that song, and if you did think that was the case, then you'd be a fool and a communist. That's thank you, Lord Bill Hicks. But anyway, it's absolutely fantastic. What a great song! And there are other good ones on here as well. "Savages" is really good. Which is it's almost an instrumental, but it's got Lene Lovich wailing all over the top of it. Freaky goodness here. And then Neverland, which opens the B-side, is a brooding verse, which leads to a wonderful chorus. And it's got a great drum pattern, which is on the one throughout. And to finish, we've got Details, which is a rocking new wave rave up. She is definitely an artist that I've got to investigate more thoroughly. Anyway, what that did pique my interest in is Thomas Dolby and the Golden Age of Wireless. This is from 1982, and it's a Canadian pressing, which is really important because of one thing. Can you pick what it is? I don't know about you whether that weight was worth it, but there's no "She Blinded Me with Science" on it. Just have a look at that album cover. This is a man who wants to be treated seriously. Some great songs on this. "Radio Silence," which used to open the album, is a beautiful song which sets the agenda of being a new age power, new wave power pop classic. "Commercial Breakup," which opens side 2, has a jazz funk pop sensibility that could only be the 80s. I love it. It swings, it moves, and it reminds me a little of Level 42. So how about that? Then there's 2 tracks which weren't on the album once "She Blinded Me with Science" got placed on it, which are fantastic. There's "Leipzig," which begins jauntily, but then goes into intense Rupert Hine territory. And I definitely make that comparison. If you like Rupert Hine, you will love this album by Thomas Dolby. And then we have "Urges," which is all new wave. And then right towards the end, although it was shifted up right towards the beginning on subsequent pressings, is the beautiful, I think it was a single called "Airwaves." It's a perfect pop ballad which builds and builds until it soars in the chorus. If you haven't checked it out, or you've neglected to because of "She Blinded Me Like Science," and I think that's what the album cover turned into, which is pretty different. Please check it out. You won't be disappointed. The next album, this is not a buy. I came in with very low expectations because this album, Lewis Tillet, and it's Ego Tripping at the Gates of Hell. I think Flaming Lips also released an album by that title, Ego Tripping at the Gates of Hell. And this was gifted to me by the Sunburnt Sailor. Love the cover. What a great image there on the cover. Can you see that? What a wonderful image that is. Now, he was the frontman, the lead singer of the legendary Oz indie band Wet Taxis, who I never really got into. I mean, just because they're independent because they're from your own country doesn't mean you have to love them all, does it? Anyway, he played with No Dance. He did some work with the Laughing Clowns and Paris Green. But the song, it opens with "Trip to Kaluki Bar." I don't know if that's how you say it, or Kalukai Bar. And this is like a psychotic waltz by the Doors. Absolutely comes at you very, very hard, and it wasn't what I was expecting at all. And there's one thing that's really noticeable about this album is, for the first 15 or 20 seconds as each song started, I thought I knew it and knew where it was going, and then it would open and blossom and bloom like a flower, like a gorgeous flower, and it would often go somewhere else. For example, like the second song, a duet in blue minor. It comes across as it's a duet with Lewis and another singer, like a take on that 60s classic lounge song Spooky. But then it goes into some bluesier terrain, and it's a very bluesy album. And there's many moments of classic sort of garage rock as well, which is the third song, Swimming in the Mirror. So that's just the first three songs. So if you like the sound of that, I definitely go for it. I also love the tribal Gospel of Voluntary Slavery, which opens side 2. And then, completely unexpected, they do a killer cover of On Your Way Down by Little Feat from the second album, Dixie Chicken. So that's Lewis Tillet, Ego Tripping at the Gates of Hell. My ninth one is one that my nephew, who's into his music and's got great taste, turned me onto, and it's Nathan Micay's Blue Spring from 2019. I really do not know what to make of that cover. I have no idea. I think there's sort of an anime connection, but really not sure at all. Anyway, who is Nathan Micay? Well, he's very much an electronics sort of trance sort of artist, and ambient as well. And every song on here could be, every song on here could be, have I got that up the right way? No. Yes, no. Could be part of the soundtrack to a film. And the reason for that is because this album, Blue Spring, is a dystopian concept album, which is set up by the ominous news report of the opener, Romance Dawn for the Cyber World. It really gets us into that left field vibe, ambient vibe, which reminds me a lot of the future sound of London. There's a couple of standouts on here. The whole album's great. A couple of standouts, and the first one I want to talk about is Ecstasy on Maple Mountain. And it, in Steppenwolf's terms, I know Steppenwolf were really honest and direct, it borrows the main riff from King Crimson's Formentera Lady. So that gives you a feel of that. But it really gives it that Asian influence. I love the female voice sampling, so detached on He Has the Key. And the party we could have had is an out and out banger. But for the most part, this is very thinking music. It's contemplative music and it's creative music, all beautifully produced. I like to put it on when I'm going out for a walk or even when I'm writing something. It just sort of fills in the context or fills in the void around me and it allows me to focus. It's inspirational and it's really very, very good. So that's Nathan Micay's Blue Spring. The 10th album I want to discuss with you is from 2024, and it is The Church. It wouldn't be a video without The Church being mentioned, would it? And their album Eros, Zeta, and the Perfumed Guitars, which extends upon the concept of the hypnagogue. And if you really want to get into the hypnagogue and Eros Zeta, then I recommend that you read Steve Kilby's book, Eros, Zeta, and the Hypnagogue, because it's a wild ride and it's a fun ride. And there's a punctuation error on every page or a grammatical mistake, but it doesn't matter. If you want to know what the concept is, then that's the one to go for. But this was sold, as I said, well, I didn't say, but originally this was sold on CD in 2023 at the Church's North American gigs. And so that was the reason for my very low expectations of this album. I thought, how good could it be if they're just peddling at gigs? Anyway, I shouldn't have been wary. I shouldn't have been worried. It's a really good album. I mean, just start off by taking a look at this beautiful gatefold. Images for every song. Love it all the way through. Absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I will be doing in the fullness of time a deep dive on this album. But Amanita is an up-tempo waltz with attitude, and it's a really good psyche chorus. 2054 is got gorgeous guitar interplay, and it's very much a cautionary tale which talks about how things will be in terms of technology and creativity in 2054. Then we've got to open side 3, we've got The Weather, which is The Church Goes Blues. And now those are two things I never thought I'd say in the same sentence. I mean, they're going bluesy, B-L-O-O-Z-E. But there are some twists and turns along the way, and it kind of works. I really, it's nice to hear that they're doing stuff which is different from the past. I mean, we want our bands to evolve, don't we? But side 4 is where it's at. We have the incredibly gorgeous synth and vocal-only melody of Last Melody. And then we've got the massive dissonant left turn and the King Crimson style features of A Strange Past could be my favorite. I would love to hear them play this song live. And it's got a twisting, mind-melting space jam to finish. And then we have some wonderful and delicious Ebo interplay between Jeffrey Naylor and Ian Hogue in the last song. And Kilby's playing sort of a magician among the spirit bass line, and it's an instrumental music from the Ghost Hotel. Really recommend it to you. The Church, Eros, Zeta, and the Perfumed guitars. And so that's the 10. But I'm going to add one honorable mention because it is my favorite album of 2024 that I've picked up, and it's Underworld's Strawberry Hotel. Really magnificent album that they've produced. And here's my hot take on this album. I think it's their best. And what I mean by that is it's their best listening experience. You don't need to be on the dance floor to fall in love with Strawberry Hotel. And that's something I'm going to take up in my deep dive, which is I'm going to do at the conclusion of this video. And speaking of a conclusion to this video, I hope you've enjoyed coming along this ride with me today. And I'd love to hear what some of your best no expectations, low expectations, or anxiety expectations have been from 2024. So that's the beauty of it, just finding those wonderful bargains, getting home, giving it a clean, putting it on the stereo and going, oh my God, it's life affirming, it's joyous, it makes you feel good. And that's what music should be all about. It should give you pleasure. And if music of any size, shape, style, or substance, even, can't remember the name of the damn song yet, She Blinded Me with Science, gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? If you've enjoyed this video, please hit like. And while you're at it, maybe hit that subscribe button because I know you want to. But until next time, I hope you're doing really well. Be cool and bye now.